Hi, this is Mike Bachelder with Burning Hearts Ministries for our next installment of what I'm calling the 5-minute message. Today we're going to be talking about what I call a mandate for joy, which is a message the Lord began to speak to me about out of Isaiah 35:10. And this is what that says. It says, "And the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with singing and everlasting joy on their heads. They shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and sighing will flee away." Begin to understand about joy as something that has nothing to do with circumstances, but as something God wants to place within us to counteract and give us strength for all the things in life that we have to go through, sometimes hard, difficult things. And I know there's much in this life to be depressed, disheartened, discouraged about, much that's really hard to go through, and the Lord wants us to know that He wants to give us joy that will counteract and give us strength, because the Word says the joy of the Lord is our strength. I remember hearing the story of a lady named Corrie ten Boom. She was in the concentration camps during World War II, and somebody asked her how did she manage to survive through that. And she said that she actually had the joy of the Lord in her life the entire time. And what she said is the reason she was able to endure the horrors of the Nazi concentration camps is because she said joy runs much deeper than despair. So there's something God wants to place within us, and He wants us to have joy in spite of our circumstances. And I believe also that God takes joy and gladness very seriously. It's a serious matter to Him. There's a verse in Deuteronomy 28:47 and 48 that says, because, and talking about Israel at the time, because you did not serve the Lord your God with joy and gladness of heart for the abundance of everything, therefore you shall serve your enemies. And the rest of the verses there talk about actually refusing to be joyful opens the door for a poverty spirit in our lives. Because God wants us to be joyful. He's created joy as our inheritance as believers. And it has nothing to do with what's going on around us. It's something that He wants to place within us. So we need to choose joy. You could say, well, that's an Old Testament verse. What about the New Testament? How about verses like the Apostle Paul in Philippians 4 that says, "Rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice." So we really need to choose joy. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to have times where we're going to be grieving, sorrowful, disappointed, and discouraged, but there is something that God wants to place within us that's going to give us strength to go through those things and not let that become the defining thing in our lives. We need to be joyful people. God wants to give us to us, like it says in Psalm 23:4. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, for you are with me." God doesn't always remove the circumstances, but He does promise to go through things with us and give us joy. It's part of our inheritance. It's one of the fruits of the Spirit. It's one of the things God wants to enable us to walk through circumstances and situations in life. And I've heard of people that have struggled with depression and other issues and areas that said, well, you just don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand the things I face on a daily basis. And that's true. But maybe it could be that choosing joy could be the first step on turning something around. So you can actually take a verse like Isaiah 35:10 and begin to speak it over your life and begin to ask God for a release of joy in your life in spite of circumstances. It can be a starting point. It can be allowing God to walk through things with you and bringing His joy to bear. And then the strength of God begins to come, like the joy of the Lord is our strength. Also says in Psalm 16, in His presence is fullness of joy and pleasures evermore. So God wants us to understand as believers that He is giving us joy as our inheritance. So let's take joy not as an option, not as something that we can think or we can pick or choose, but as a mandate for our life as believers, and we will see that the joy of the Lord will bring us through any circumstance, any situation. This is Mike Bachelder. I hope this has been a blessing to you. We'll see you next time.